Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Luke from Guild Umbra. In this video, we're going to talk about a max threat build with the engineer tanking role. Before we go there, let's talk a little bit about the engineer. The engineer,
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This
is in this video, we're going to talk about a. Sorry about that. The engineer is a ranged tank. He has two, stances, so to speak, and they are called. One is Eradicate mode. It's for DPS, and one is called Provoke, which is what we'll be sticking with in tanking mode. In our tank build here. What it does is it passively increases our resistances by 5% across the board. It increases our max health, and it increases our threat generation by 200%. Now when we activate it, it gives us our resource, which is valid. I can never say it. It's vitality or volatility. I can never say it, but it basically gives that resource, increases 10 per second. It also decreases the damage we take by 55%, and then it lasts. The active lasts for 10 seconds, and has a 2.5 minute cooldown. So, it's somewhat of a lengthy cooldown, so you can't use it as much as you would like, but it's there, and it's a tool for us to use as a tank. So, anyway, we're going to jump right into the abilities. First ability I have on my bar here is a taunt. It's a instant. It's called Hyper Wave. It deals technology damage to 5 foes and grants yourself an Intimidate. The Intimidate is that it threat matches the highest threat on the NPC's threat list and increases the threat generation by 1% for 6 seconds. So kind of a have-to-have, for us tanks in the situations where we have mobs pulling off us a lot. Not bad to use it early on, even though it has a long cooldown. And just something to keep in mind that it's a threat. So moving on. Our next ability is Unsteady Miasma. It's an instant cast ability. And it costs 40 volatility. There it is. Volatility. That's what it's called, guys. I figured it out. Anyway, fires a projectile that detonates upon impacting an enemy or reaching its maximum range. The detonation creates a 10-meter field around the target it lands on, and it deals technology damage and applies a blunder to 5 foes every 0.5 seconds for 8 seconds. The blunder is that it increases chance to have your attacks deflected by 32% for 3 seconds. So it's a debuff. And it's a very important skill that if you're running this build, you kind of want to keep this up as much as possible. So, just something to think about. Moving on. Ricochet. This is sort of our AoE, threat generator on multiple mobs. It's Ricochet. It's 1.25 second cast. Deals physical damage and applies exhaust to a single foe, generating 20 vitality, and can bounce up to 4 additional targets. And it generates, in this case, 124% threat. The next ability is Shock Pulse. Shock Pulse fires 3 beams that each deal physical damage, applies a snare to 5 foes, and generates 10 volatility. The snare is reduced movement speed by 13% for 5 seconds, and stack up to 3 times. It's somewhat of a kite ability tool. being a ranged tank, you're going to be ranged, and hopefully, um, so you'll be able to attack the target with these and fall back, um, and continue to build threats while also positioning mobs in the place you want them. So, not a bad ability at all. Particle Ejector. It deals technology damage to 5 foes every 0.5 seconds. Generates 175% threat. And it's kind of our main builder, so to speak, as opposed to flak cannon. Okay, you might use flak cannon early on, but as soon as you get this ability trumps that ability, and it gives us a way to build volatility, and have our other skills available to us to use. Okay. So we covered the abilities in the support tree. Let's talk about the tiers while we're still here. Unsteady Miasmas, tier 4. It applies a debuff that decreases CC resilience by 16% for 3 seconds. This is not the reason we take it. The reason we take it is for the blunder. Even though it says increases chance to have your attacks deflected, it's as if reading it from the enemy. Okay. So it lowers their deflect chance by a certain percent. Next is Ricochet. While between 30 and 70 volatility, grant 100% chance to make Ricochet an instant cast. So we no longer have to wait 1.25 seconds to get this off. We can get it off immediately, and produce that threat that we desperately need on AoE packs. So anyway, that's the reason we take that. The next one is Particle Ejector. And I described this wrong. Guys, keep in mind this is not my best class, so I'm kind of doing this off the top of my head, even though I have done research on it. So this is a spender, okay, and each time that you use it, it's 5 volatility per tick. So the tier 4 in this case would reduce the volatility expenditure by 2 per tick, making it 3. We also take the tier 8 because it reduces the armor of the enemy by 47.5% per tick for 3 seconds. So it's another way to increase overall DPS from my group, while also still generating threat on my side, and not running down my volatility that much, okay, in the process. So that explains the tiers and the abilities for the support tree. Going to dive into the utility. Okay, so as you can see, the next one is Shatter Impairment. It's a CC breaker. But it not only breaks us out of CC, but it grants us an absorb for 10 seconds. So pretty nice ability, even with the cooldown being 20 seconds. So it's not that bad. Personal Defense Unit is our next ability. It's an instant cast. Deploys a personal defense unit lasting 30 seconds directly ahead of you. This defense unit grants you a defense for 5 seconds, and on expiration grants an absorb for 5 seconds. The defense that it's talking about, that it grants you, decreases damage taken by 25%, so another mitigation tool for us to use. And as you can see, I left the last ability out, because you can use it in a lot of different places. You can use it in Zap, which is kind of what I would use it in if it was me. because right now we have no way of decreasing a mob's interrupt armor. So that would be one that I would use. Recursive Matrix is another, kind of utility support ability that affects a big area around you, granting allies deflect chance, kind of similar to the Warrior's defense grid, but with the added buff being that increases CC resilience by 28%, which is pretty nice. I mean, it's often overlooked, but it could mean the difference between eating a telegraph and getting out of one. So. Another one would be RepairBot. It's pretty nice ability, but we're not really talk about it too much because we're going to be going into it in our next build. But basically, it's a bot that you drop down and it restores shield to you and allies, while also dealing damage to one foe. So that's basically what it does. This is also an ability that you could throw in there if you weren't concerned with, using any of the other abilities. Volatile Injection. It grants a defense and empower to yourself for 10 seconds. It's kind of similar to the Preparation from the Rogues, which increase your deflect. I can talk. Deflect critical hit chance by 10% in this case, and increases your critical hit chance by 10%. So obviously you would pick this up for the chance to increase your chance of not being bursted by critical hits mobs do to you. So that would be the reason I would take this. Code Red's another taunt. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. The only side effect that I would kind of have a problem with is usually being a ranged tank, and right now in the current state of the game, it seems like melee DPS do a lot more damage than range do. Considering, or it depends on the fight, obviously, but seems like they do a lot more damage out, burst damage out the gate, and you have a lot more trouble holding threat from those guys. I very rarely, except for spell slingers, have issues with ranged pulling threat off me. So, but that's my experience from other tanks, and the engineer's a new animal. So I may be very wrong in saying that. So, Obstruct Vision is another ability that is pretty useful, and I would say PvP if I needed to put more CC on my bar. Between this and Zap, I would definitely put it on there to help my group get those moves. So, but it's a blind, and it increases the chance to be deflected by 50% for 5 seconds and destroys one interrupt armor. So that basically covers the abilities for this kind of full threat build that I got going here. Let's talk about the imps. Again, the imps are something that you receive as you level. You get 1 amp per level from level 6 to 50 for a total of 45 amps. So that's how we're going to build out our amps. I'm not going to talk about after that because in order to get the remaining 10 amp points, you have to get something called Elder Gems, and you have to spend Elder Gems to buy those remaining 10 amp points. Little FYI with the imps is that in each tree that you have here, you have a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. The tier 1, you have to spend points in to get to tier 2, or unlock tier 2. Same thing if you have to spend points in tier 1 and tier 2 to unlock tier 3. And each one of the assault, support, and utility trees And the tier 3s have abilities that you can put on your action bar, okay, as a result of spending points in the previous tiers. So anyway, so let's talk about the amps I've chosen. Uh, Obviously, I want to take as much support power as I can. Um, so, tier 1s are usually static stat increases, whereas tier 2s usually require you to cast an ability or, kind of special side effects as a result of using abilities or having an event to take place, like taking a deflect and whatnot. Anyway, so I fill out the support power 1, 2, and 3 to get increased to my support power by 7.5% of my current maximum. And then I fill out my deflect. 3% deflect may not seem like much, but it takes a lot of insight to get to 3% deflect. I can tell you that from experience. So I fill that out next. I grab I can't say that word either. Good lord, I'm having trouble. But basically what it does is landing a hit grants a threaten for 3 seconds. Can only occur every 5 seconds. The threatening increases threat generation by 60%, but in the current patch notes, this just got nerfed to 25%. So, even though, having, I still think it's a viable amp, but it's just not as good as it used to be. So, keep that in mind. The next amp, Try and Hurt Me. While between 30 and 70 volatility, grants 1 stack of Try and Hurt Me every 0.5 seconds. Reaching 3 stacks of Try and Hurt Me restores 62% health. So it's pretty nice. It's also important to, as the engineer, to try to keep myself in between those ranges as much as possible to get this proc as much as possible. So, as you can see, there's no cooldown on it. So it's pretty good amp at the moment. Boosted armor. On taking a heal, grants defense for 5 seconds. Defense increases your armor rating by 12.5%. So something to think about here is that, armor, what is it? Armor is broken down into 3 different resistances. It's physical resistance, it's tech resistance, and magic resistance. So again, similar to the Spellslinger healer that had an amp that increased a person's armor using heals. In this case, it's a pretty damn good amp. Any way we can increase our mitigation is kind of a big deal as a tank. So especially in the current state of the game. Okay, moving on. You see these. I grabbed a couple critical hits right here, and that was only to get this buff. You gain between 30 and 70 volatility. Gain 7 volatility every 1.5 seconds. So it's, again, kind of a big deal. And so that's why we take the critical hit. I mean, it just, we have to get there. Volatility is a big deal with Engineer, especially when you don't use as many builders. So anyway, last few amps are kind of suggested but not required. Strike through is a suggested one. Like I stated in my stat priority video, it's not that strike through is not a big deal. It's just sort of on the end of our stat priorities because we're more interested in getting other things. So, that's why there's only 1 point there. So we filled out our max shield capacity by 3, 6, and 9%. Shields mitigate 25% of the damage we take. The remainder of the damage goes to our health. So being able to have a larger shield capacity helps, in our mitigation slightly. So, Helping Hand. Taking damage grants a beacon for 30 seconds. Beacon increases incoming healing by 5%. Stacks up to 3 times. So again, this is an amp that we take for our healers so they don't rage quit or lead group on us as much. You know, it's just a plus to be able to help out our healers a little bit more by taking this amp. So again, it's not required. It's something that I suggest. So anyway, moving on. You'll notice that a lot of our abilities had really long cooldowns. So we want to try to lessen those cooldowns as best as we can, and the only way we can do that is in the out trace. So that's my thoughts of taking the cooldown reduction up to 15%. And lastly, dashing, reckless dash. Dashing generates 20 volatility. Again, another way to build volatility. We'll take it. Not much to say about that. It's just something that we need to keep in mind when we're tanking with the engineer, and even DPS for that matter. When we go there, keeping a good range with our volatility between 30 and 70 is a big deal, as you can see. So, with this amp and several others. So anyway, that covers the first build. Again, guys, keep in mind that this is the least played class that I played in both closed beta and open beta, for that matter. It's not that I didn't like it. I just, I didn't like it. That's just me. I just didn't like the idea of a ranged tank. But that's my opinion. That doesn't mean that it can't be used in the current state of the game. So, prove me wrong. Run some engineer tanks out there, and I guess from my experience, I did a lot of healing, and so I had a lot of trouble with healing engineer tanks because it seemed like they were always positioning themselves in bad situations. So that's why I guess I have sort of a vendetta against them. But again, that's my opinion. Wildstar is one of those games that each class has a place in the current state of the game. Even though a lot of them aren't balanced right now, I believe. But even though they're not balanced, they still have a role to play. So anyway, before I go on another rant, I want to thank you guys for watching my videos and tuning in. If you like what you saw, hit that like button on YouTube. If you want to be kept up to date for when I do more videos like this, follow me on Twitch. It's Big Dog LB is the username. Don't ask. It's a name I grew up with. And again, this is Luke from Guild Umbra signing off. You guys have a good night. In our next video, we'll touch base on more of a shield build and mitigation build. So tune in. Thanks, guys. Take care.